Just a quick one before we get into this episode. If you're in the UK and you use supplements, I'd highly recommend checking out Reflex Nutrition, where they're giving up to 40% on all their range if you use the code PTRNT at checkout. I've been using Reflex for nearly a decade, with their microwave being one of my favorite whey proteins. It's grass-fed, hormone-free, and digests so well compared to most on the market. Check out their full supplement range, including all your transformation basics and plant-based alternatives on reflexnutrition.com and use the code PTRNT at checkout for up to 40% off. It's not long left now until the new book, Transform Your Body, Transform Your Life, is released. Sunday, 24th of May is the big day, and I can't wait for you to get your copy. Make sure you subscribe to our email list and social media for updates on book bonuses, previews, competitions, and giveaways. Exciting times ahead. Today's episode of RNT Fitness Radio is a special roundtable edition where I'm joined by movement specialist Rushabh Savla, human behavior reformist Nevsah Karamehment, and optimum performance expert Manmeet Chowdhry. This was taken from a Facebook Live that was hosted by Savla, and it's all about the importance of looking within through meditation, dealing with fear and anxiety, using the physical as the vehicle, why movement is medicine, and the fundamental law of transformation. Listening back, I was mind blown, and I knew I had to upload it onto the podcast for you guys. So I hope you enjoy this one.
So listen, the first topic that we want to talk about, and with all the situation that's going around, the whole coronavirus thing, everyone's in self-isolation, it's a global pandemic, we know this. I want to hear your thoughts on that, but also any tips that you have around that. And I want to start off by talking about one of the biggest things that's out there, and I see a lot of these days, which is fear and anxiety. So we know there's a lot of people who are scared about what's going on, they're unsure what's happening. There's a lot of anxious people out there who are, just want to be able to get through this, but are not sure how to. There's a lot of fake stories, a lot of fake news and scare stories going around. So it's natural for people to have that fear within them. Manmeet, if I can start with you.
Yes.
From an emotional point of view, what's your take on this? What's your take on fear and anxiety around this whole situation?
Well, if I'd like to redefine, I think, first of all, fear, because a lot of people kind of, say there's some sort of fear of the unknown, okay? But actually, in order to have any type of fear, we must have content in our mind. So there's actually never fear of the unknown. We already have content in our mind of what we're fearing in the future. We've kind of heard that, saying of false evidence appearing real being the acronym for fear. Well, if we take a look at that, it's really about, we think we're about to experience something in the future through our senses that's going to cause us more pain than pleasure, more drawback than benefit. And basically what we're doing is seeing one side of the equation. We're kind of looking at, if we look at the analogy of a magnet, anytime you cut a magnet in half, you're always going to have a positive and negative pole. You try and cut it in half again, you're still going to have a positive, negative pole. Well, our future is, as well as our past, is also like that. It has both sides. And until we actually see both sides, we'll still fear something in the future. But typically it will be based on something in the past. Now, people are either fearing, losing money, losing jobs, losing business. So somewhere along the lines, they've experienced that in the past, which in their mind has sat there because it's quite imbalanced. It's just had a one-sided perception. And that's sat there until it kind of niggles away and comes up again. And suddenly we go, oh, last time I experienced it, there was only one side. It was only negative. So that means in the future, if I'm going to experience it, it's also going to be the same. But when we start to see that whatever we've experienced in the past has been both sides, a positive and a negative, neither one or the other, and it's actually been neutral, we won't fear the future because we'll start to see, well, no matter what I go through, if it's always going to have both sides, what is there to actually fear?
Okay, that's absolutely fantastic. It's really, really good to know, to be able to understand that there's always two sides to every coin. I believe there's in your words, there's a third side as well, right, to a coin.
Yes. Yeah, the edge.
Yeah.
On the edge, you don't see a head or tail, you just see, that's it.
Exactly.
I just had one thing. One thing me and Manmeet were talking about about a week ago is how we were talking about how the pandemic is some form of law of duality coming into play, and I spoke about this a bit on my podcast about coronavirus, and when you heard it, you had some really good thoughts you shared with me on voice note. I think it'd be really good for the listeners to hear what you said to me as to what your thoughts are on some of this, and how a lot of the law of dualities in the universe is almost in a state of rebalance and resetting itself through this.
Yeah, I mean, knowing that, the law of duality is always in place, as well as the law of transformation, which, we'll talk a little bit later about. But because the law of duality is always in place, all we've got to do is ask the right quality questions, as you know, that my mentor, Dr. John DeMartini, has taught me. And, once we see that, we see the law of duality typically, in most places, that if we take a moment to look. So if we look at what's going on right now, actually, let me give you a great example that I heard the other day. There was a hurricane that took place in Florida, which when it happened was called Disaster Andrew. And so everybody called it Disaster Andrew because they were only seeing all the negative effects of this, of the hurricane. A year later, as so many other benefits unraveled, and they saw how it was actually equally a benefit, not that it was just a positive event now, so not swinging like from one side of the pendulum to the other, but actually seeing it had equal benefits. They renamed it St. Andrew. So, it's actually what we're going through has both sides if we take a look at it. Now, we can look at it globally and see how there are benefits globally, because clearly there is a whole, transformation happening globally. But what happens is sometimes, we are beings that are actually running on that radio station, WIIFM, what's in it for me? I may not care about what's happening globally. How is this benefiting me? So, on an individual level and on a global level, we can definitely see, what's happening is serving, and it's a complete reprogram. And I think Akash said it in his podcast when, he said that nature's basically tried to get us. I saw this quote, actually. This quote was great. It said, "I feel like the universe has sent us all to our room and got us to figure out what we've been doing."
Like a big punishment, I think.
Well, punishment if it's one side, but actually just a reevaluation.
A reevaluation. I think it's
a slowdown of growth.
That's it. I think, it's like you said, with fear and anxiety, fear especially has been quite one that's driving people to change how they behave. But more so in a way where, for example, I read a story. It's actually about fear and plague. So this man's walking through the desert, and he comes across fear and plague. And the plague goes to the man, "You see that town out there? We're going to go and kill about 1,000 people." So the man goes to the plague, "Oh, you must be very, very powerful," right? And he's like, "No, I've got fear with me. I'm going to kill 1,000, but the fear is going to kill 1 million. And right now, that's exactly what's happening, is the fear. If you look at the virus, actually, it's if we stop moving, the virus dies. It's as simple as that. If we stop moving and hopping from one place to another, keep our social distancing, the virus dies. If we stop panic buying, if we stop creating this fear, anxiety effect that we're spreading like wildfire, the virus will die. So yeah, it's quite an important one. But I love the law of duality. I think, Akash, that was a brilliant podcast, by the way.
Well, thank you.
May I add something?
Yeah, please.
I'm also a meditation teacher, and I've been meditating for over 20 years in a very disciplined way. And I usually talk about the human and being, because when you look at humans, we are not only humans, or we are not only beings. So people who think we are just humans are mistaken, and who think we are just beings are also mistaken. And we see that duality everywhere, but we are human beings. So what's happening right now is actually also telling us we have been investing on our human side for such a long time. The universe is saying, go in. It's not like shutting us in, but it's more like seeing the message, what the universe is trying to tell us. It says go within. So I think this is the perfect time for people to start meditating, to go in, because the whole scenario, what's going on when you look at it, it's saying go within. You lost your balance between your human and being. You were too much extrovert. You were too much. When you look at our lives, just a few months ago, when you look at people, how people were, chasing one thing after another and, being out there, extrovert. There was this whole being extrovertness, and our male side was too much in the picture. And we lost our connection with our feminine side. And it's the same thing with women and men, because we all have that feminine side where we connect with the being, with our intuitions, and with our calmness. And most of the people lost connection with that. So being on the human side, being in action the whole time, leads to an unbalance in every human being. And I've been seeing this coming for a long time, because I've been working with people on meditation and breathing basis. And I've been seeing people lost that balance, especially women, and more women than men, on losing their balance between their feminine side and the masculine side. And when you look at women, what a woman is and what a woman stands for in reality, that feminine energy, it's our connection with our being. And women being extrovert, being out there, being in action the whole time, it leads to an unbalance in society and also unbalance in the whole universe. So I think we should also look at that, like the universe is yearning for us to connect with our feminine side, connect with our being. It says stop, stop whatever you're doing. Stay in, go in, connect within, connect more with your being side, because you lost balance with your human and being. You're too much in the effort. All of this effort, there is a strong need of effortlessness in the universe right now, not in only humans, like this whole universe is yearning for that. And I think this is a great chance. Like Manmeet said, nothing is just, harmful. It has both sides of the story. And when you look at both sides of the story, I think everything we experience are also lessons, are also teachings. And when you look at it on a deeper level, what is the universe trying to teach us, trying to show us? It says stop. And we are all saying stay in, stop. If we stopped, the virus would go away. If we could stop, all of the viruses would go away. That's what meditation is. When you stop in the morning, in the evening, every day for minimum 20 minutes, you heal. So it's as simple as that. Stop, stop in the morning, 10, 15 minutes, stop in the evening, 10, 15 minutes. Let that stopping and effortlessness heal you. Connect with your being. You were too much running. You were too much in action. Stop the action. Learn to stop. Learn to rest. Learn to connect with your being, and you will heal. So how I see everything, happening.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
Great.
That's really, really good, actually. And it's for us to like Rushabh said, like you said, being just stopping and that movement is obviously something that we should be doing in terms of self-isolating. But the energy and the movement and the balance is something I want to move on to a little bit later, if that's okay. Yeah,
Sure.
that's okay with you guys.
I've got to ask off the back of that. Sorry, Nevsah. When you say go within and stop to go within, for people who've never actually stopped to go within and almost potentially have fear or uncomfortable feelings around going within, how do you recommend for them to take that first step to slow down, stop, and go inside?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Great question. I think you're right. I think just stopping and closing your eyes and going within is not an easy thing, because your mind needs tools to relax. Your mind needs tools to calm down. And for us to have a balanced perception, meditation is a very important practice. And I always suggest being meditation modalities for people who are beginners to meditation. So using mantras, using, your breath, just giving your mind some tools to calm down, I think are great tools. And being meditation techniques where we connect with our being and when we connect with the now are the best techniques. So what I do in my meditation practices is, and when I teach being meditation methods, I teach one mantra that's a very strong mantra, and that's aham. Aham mantra is a mantra we use in classic Vedic meditation. And as you probably all know, in Sanskrit, the words are actually the sounds of, what we're trying to define. So aham is the sound of I am. So it's the sound of I am presence. And to connect with our being and to easily go into, connection with our being, the mantra aham is the most powerful and most easy mantra we can use. And how people can use that mantra is just, however you want to sit, they can sit wherever they are comfortable, just close their eyes and keep, remembering the mantra, but not like controlling the mantra, like, in your mind saying aham, aham, aham over and over again, but let it sink in and let it, be like a pulse in the mind, aham, and maybe a few seconds later, aham. That mantra will calm the mind down and it will help people to meditate easier. And one thing about meditation, because that's what people are most mistaken about meditation. Most people think meditation is about stopping the mind, but it's not about stopping the mind. Or many people think, and they even use meditation methods for disassociation purposes. And meditation modalities like, imagining yourself somewhere in the forest near a pond, I don't recommend those meditations because they are mostly disassociation modalities. Real meditation, classic Vedic meditation, leads us into facing ourselves and just being there, staying there with yourself. So have the intention of just staying with yourself, with whatever you have, without making them mean anything, with whatever feeling you have, not stopping the mind. Try not to stop the mind. Try not trying to stop the mind, not trying to create any specific, relaxation or any specific emotion or feeling, not expecting anything is real effortlessness. So if people have the intention of just sitting with themselves with whatever they have, whatever emotions, whatever feelings, whatever thoughts they have, and if they can just let them be without making it mean something. Like if they have fear, it's okay, just sitting with it. If they have, stress, sitting with it. And understanding that there are no emotional charges or emotions that won't be neutralized as long as you sit with them enough. So if you sit with all your emotions enough, if you spend enough time with all your emotions, if you just sit there and watch and face it, you'll experience your emotions neutralizing. And that's the magic of meditation. Not running away, but facing yourself will neutralize. And it's beautiful for people to experience right now.
Yeah, so just be focused on that. Say, be focused on that one, that aham, but be focused in the moment itself, rather than thinking it's something I have to do. It's something you actually want to do and you choose to do. And that's what it is. And then that's where the change comes in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, Rushabh, you want to mention something? Sorry.
Yeah, actually. So the physiological effects. So we deal with a lot of chronic pain and performance. And when we start getting people to slow down, actually they've got better results when it comes to like performance based. So if it's an athlete that's sort of sprinting or something of that sort, what they're doing is you can't tense the body and then explode out of it. And the other thing is actually with the meditation side of things, what we've got a couple of NLP practitioners who are also physios, who are also mindfulness coaches. And from what I gather from seeing their clients change is with the mindfulness and the breathing, and more than the mindfulness, it's more the meditation aspect. They start shifting from a sympathetic system where they're constantly in that fight or flight mindset, which is what the world, I think, has been in like for a long period of time, with the bombardment of social media and friends and family, our expectations. We have to be number one all the time. And like Nevsah said, action, action, action. Actually, our bodies need that time to revert back to the parasympathetic, really slowing down, setting that body back to a mind where you're now allowing the fight or flight centers in our brain to switch off for a bit and actually start thinking from what we call our prefrontal cortex, which is the front of our brain, which helps us be who we are as people. So it's quite important to sort of link that with pain and performance, and also just pain generally. When someone's pain, when they've got fear and anxiety, their pain levels have shot up. They might just have a scratch on their hand, but for them, it might feel like an amputation. And when we're dealing with clients, we bring this to light, but then we would refer on to people like Nevsah or anyone who does breathing work or Manmeet to really deal with the emotion side of things, because chronic pain is just not, it's just not just a physiological problem. There's all the other factors that are causing it. And it's like an onion. We're just always peeling off the layers. But a really great point on the whole meditation and letting every emotion almost be with it. I've been practicing meditation for nearly a year now, and it's helped me perform so much better on a day-to-day basis as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's really good. So we've heard from Manmeet, we've heard from Nevsah, we've heard from Rushabh. Actually, you touched on points that I wanted to cover, which is fantastic. Akash, in terms of the fitness and the daily grind, things like that, what's your viewpoint on that? And
before Akash, I need to leave because I'm in the middle of a training. I'm actually in the middle of an online training, so I need to leave. Thank you for this whole organization, for all of you. I think the intention behind it is huge. So thanks for being here, and thanks for listening to what I have to share, and thanks for sharing all your ideas, and thanks for continuing this while I can't. A big hug to you all. Take care.
Bye now.
Thank you
for sharing.
Thanks for sharing.
So, yes, Akash.
Yeah, so are you talking about in the context of what's happening right now?
Yeah, so generally, one, in the context of what we're going through at the moment with the whole coronavirus, things like that, and that's bringing a lot of fear and anxiety within people. But also, people have fear and anxiety within other things in their life as well, outside of the whole coronavirus. So how does fitness fit in with that? How does it help people work through?
Yeah, of course. So the reason why, you may have heard, I always say that the physical is the vehicle. And the reason why I say this is because when you focus on your physical being and you focus on transforming your body, the focus and attention and internal drive you have to create in order to create a transformation in your body transcends into all areas of your life. And when you suddenly shift the priority from everything else to yourself, all of a sudden you make a change in your body. But more than that is you start to regain control of your day. You start to build self-esteem from ticking the small boxes every day. And as a result, momentum gathers and you create a lot of confidence from everything that comes with it. So if you are struggling with the fear of the unknown, fear of lack of control, and all of these different things, there's always one thing you can control, and that's your physical body and what you put into your body and how you treat your body. And that's why I think for anyone looking to change anything, the physical is always the foundation of this. And taking care of yourself, taking care of what you put into your mouth, how you treat your body, how you move your body, that's the foundation for everything. And in order to make a change in everything else you do, you have to take care of number one. And going through a physical transformation is what brings yourself back as the number one priority in your life.
I think it's also about that non-negotiables, and I think Akash talks about it in his philosophy. If you time block something and you keep it as a non-negotiable because one, it's your highest priority, or two, you see it as being the highest priority for this particular moment. I think it's probably one of the most effective ways in dealing with with change. So it's the one place where you can affect change the fastest. And that's through your physical movement. And
So
even
Go ahead.
Yeah, even if you're doing something as simple as taking a 5 to 10 minute walk every 2 hours away from your desk, something as simple as that, but put it as a non-negotiable.
If we consider what we have to do to transform your body, there's typically 5 things on your checklist. You've got training, nutrition, staying active with steps, sleeping, and hydration. In order to get all of that done, to make a real change to your body, you have to create non-negotiables. You have to set your day up with structure. You have to have systems to accomplish certain things. And you have to have a strategy on dealing with in being able to do all of that around your normal life. And the structure, strategy, and systems you gain, the non-negotiables you put into your day, all of that stuff, when it comes together, you suddenly have a life where you're more in control of what you do. You have focus again, and you take care of number one. And by default, you're then able to take care of your business, take care of your family, take care of everyone else around you. But it all starts by doing it by taking care of yourself, and that's why the physical is so important. And it couldn't be more of an important time than it is right now during this pandemic that you do take care of yourself, because there's so much uncertainty and feelings of being out of control. You have to go back to what you can control, and that's what you put in your mouth, how you treat your body, and ultimately yourself.
Do you feel like this is even more important now for a person to look out for themselves, so putting them as priority number one? Because this is the time where everyone's living inside a house together for longer hours than normally. We normally end up spending more hours at work for a lot of us. And all of a sudden now we're interacting so much more with members of our family. And again, I can see it in people's, in my own house, I can see that my mum wants to do everything for everyone. But then I had to sit her down and almost say, no, you know what? You were doing gym 6 times a week. You still have to put that into your program and look after herself, because I could see her feeling lost and trying to do everything for everyone.
There's a misconception that taking care of your physical is selfish, but the way I see it is, how can you look after anyone else if you're not at your best yourself? If you're not at your mental and physical best, how can you look after your family, your clients, your business, your relationships, or whatever it may be? You have to at least slot those non-negotiables in on a daily basis in order to thrive in everything else you do.
Yeah, it's like energy-wise. So if you can have like boundless energy, but if you utilize all that energy on other people, then at the end of it, you haven't got any energy to look after yourself. And if you don't look after yourself and you're not there, who's going to end up looking after all the other people?
Yeah, and what happens then is you burn out, you make bad decisions, and all the decision fatigue that you've accumulated from looking after everyone else, you start making bad decisions for yourself. You start creating more poorer lifestyle habits. You start looking at crutches, where this is where things like alcohol, fast food, processed foods, just being sedentary, all of these things just accumulate. And the next thing you know is your mental and physical health is down the drain. You're out of control. You're even more overwhelmed. You're stressed out, and things just spiral out of control. And that's what ends up happening if you don't take care of yourself.
Manmeet, how would one shift? Some of them have just always known this. They've always known their priorities. They've always acted like, I need to look after everyone else. How would they start sort of going, like taking some of the advice that we were talking about today and start making some changes?
Well, I think the first thing, just to add to Akash, what he said, is that I think there's actually nothing we can control apart from 3 things in our life. That is our perceptions, decisions, and actions. So it comes into the physical, but it also comes into every single area of our life. If we perceive something, whatever meaning we make around it, we'll make a decision and then we'll act in that way. So if we don't have, health up in our highest priorities, we're not going to make decisions that are aligned with that. So it's going to come really down to, I think the first thing is most people go, well, how do I know what my priorities are? And, there's a whole value determination process that, I've learned through Dr. DeMartini, but to put it down to, 4 key questions that we can really do, I call them STEM, is when we look at our space, our personal space, we'll tend to keep things around us that are most important. having moved from the office back home to work from home, I have pretty much all my priorities around me, but I was only allowed to bring obviously a certain amount because I can't carry the whole office home. So it wasn't until I actually moved back in my office and literally took a picture of what I'd bought, and I was like, oh, there's that priority, there's that. And literally my top 3 priorities just shone out where I kept around. So you'd look at the top 3 things you keep around you in your personal space. Then you look at what you're spending your time on. Now, time is something we've got so much more of, but we all have the same amount of hours, whether it be pre or during, the pandemic. So we're all going to spend our time according to those priorities as well. So looking at the top 3 ways we spend our time, the top 3 things that you spend your energy on, the things that we are energized by. And then, of course, what are we spending our money on? Interestingly, because I'm speaking to a few of my clients that, even though there is this whole thing about uncertainty around money and, the whole economy, you're at home. So some people are spending their money on their highest priorities. Like, I know that one of the, first things when we found out we were going to be on a lockdown, like everybody typically went online. There is no gym anywhere. There is no weights, no nothing that you can buy, right? And my coach from RNT, Ben, and I were having a conversation. It was like, we immediately saw both sides. We were like, damn, I can't get it. And it was like, great to see so many people putting health up there, So it was like, you're also going to be spending your money on that. Now, when you identify your priorities and you have what I call that GPS, because that's what is directing you. That is the one that is, telling you turn this way, turn this way. If you then want to make health as a priority, is, as Akash said, there are those 5 kind of things that make you what we would call, living at your optimum health. Then it's about linking those very things and going, okay, well, how is, walking my steps going to help me in my coaching and teaching? So one of my highest priorities is my coaching and teaching. Well, I know that when I have taken my walks, early morning, I am actually already playing out the day and setting my intentions during that walk. I'm listening to something that's actually expanding my knowledge to help me in my coaching and teaching. I'm also now more recently, since being home, I'm actually going on the walks with my dad. So he and I get to connect. We're talking about wealth building and things like that. Like, we didn't tend to have these kind of conversations, and he's reading a book that I've given him and then he's telling me about it in the morning. So I'm still getting all of those kind of priorities met. So you will tend to only do something if we see there's a benefit to us and our priorities. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. So as long as we are, anything that is that you're wanting to do during the day. So like, when Akash says, if you put yourself first and you've, put down everything you want to achieve in that day. First of all, I'd like to say, don't beat yourself up if you don't do it. All that's happened is, what really happens is, if we are in an elevated state, we will tend to set goals for the day because we're in that elevated state thinking we can achieve more than we can do. And then if we're in a kind of like a gloomy state, we're going to set goals and tasks that we're going to give ourselves more timeline to do when the little tasks. It's just a state that we actually end up setting those goals in. So if we take a look at it more from that, poised state of presence and gratitude and balance, and then go, what realistically am I able to achieve today? And go, well, how is that achieving that? I think the question we can ask on a day-to-day basis is, what are the top 5 to 7 action steps that I can take today that's going to help me fulfill my highest priorities? So, obviously, if your highest priority is your business, what are the 5 to 7 things that you can do today that's going to help you fulfill that? If your, highest priority is family, what are the 5 to 7 things? So the moment we start actually putting that out there, we're setting intentions. They're more realistic as well. And they're aligned with your priorities. So you're going to be inspired to do them. Anytime I set a goal that isn't aligned with my priorities, I need outside motivation. I'll need somebody to pay me very high to do something in order to get me to do it. But anything that I take and I would love to do it. So a lot of people sitting at home now have started to say, well, I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that. If you link it to your priorities, it'll become something you don't need motivation for. You'll do it just naturally from within.
One conversation we have with a lot of our clients is exactly around that. And if they or anyone who's looking to improve their physical and their fitness, and they're wondering how they don't have the time or they feel they just can't get started, it's about asking them, well, not just what's your why, but what's your why behind your why, and then keep asking those questions, ask another question, ask another question. I think you've said to me before, you've got to have at least 10 connections in order to go from motivation to inspiration. And if we just take an example of family, that's a big one for a lot of people where their highest priority is family. And the example Rushabh gave earlier of his mum who wasn't paying attention to it, her physical now. But if you link being physically fit to how it's going to help you be a better mother or better father or brother or whatever it may be, then all of a sudden you're more motivated, or you're inspired, I should say correctly, to go out and do your steps and eat correctly, because it's serving a bigger purpose than just aesthetics, which for most people, it's very rarely only just aesthetics.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Even with the physio side of things, most people see physios as hands-on guys, a bit of move things around, get movement and get out of pain, and that's the end of that. Actually, we have a process where we really find out the why behind the why behind the why. Because we want to know, why is this person spending their time, energy, and money coming to see us for shoulder pain? And we want to know what the big reason is. Oh, he needs to get back to bench pressing. Oh, so he can bench press to get his sort of physical actions.
What about me, Rushabh?
Yeah. And then he's looking at, okay, if he can bench press, then he's able to kind of, put these amazing videos out with 50 kilo dumbbells on each hand. And, that gets him this, he's inspired to do more. He's inspired to show people that actually you can come from nothing to something, and he shows the journey. And that's when we connect to someone.
I'm just going to bounce off that. Rushabh, he's explaining what he did with me, basically. Because I've been putting off this shoulder pain I've had for months, like months and months and months. And it wasn't until it got to the worst it could potentially get. And I said to Rushabh, all right, I'm going to come and I need you to come help me. And then we spoke about the why behind the why. And I think he asked me, why is it really important? I'm like, well, so if I can floor press, so I can train hard. And if I can't train hard, if I can't train my body hard, I don't feel good. And if I don't feel good, then I won't be able to perform my business well. If I don't do that, then, and so on. And the link I now use when I do my rehab, because for me, rehab feels like a waste of time. If I don't do this, I have to think, if I do my rehab, then it's going to help my business. That's how I'm making the connection.
I'm glad the linking process has messed all your clients up now, Rush.
I'm looking at this MIDI band and I've got to do 10 raises on each side. I'm like, this couldn't be thinking anything worse to do, but it's serving a bigger purpose than.
Well, I think we could thank Dr. DiMartini for teaching me that, because it is, one thing he said is everything's flipping linkable.
Yeah, I think it's also having it in the site. If it's there in front of you, right? I've got this little thing here, and I know that it's a trigger for me to go and lift weights at any point in the day, and I just leave it here. I'm never going to use that 1 kilo, or it's just more of a trigger for me to kind of go, right, okay, let's go out, let's go do some weights, let's get up, let's move. And because I've sat the most of my life that I've ever sat because of this work from home stuff. I've never had, now that we transitioned to online physio, I've just realized, Akash, it must be so difficult when you made that transition from gym floor to online business.
Your NEAT just goes down the hill. And this is another thing people are going to be struggling with, is they're suddenly going from being very active in their day-to-day, where they're commuting, they're doing odd things around the office, and now they're just stuck inside and they're just sat on the sofa or sat at their desk. And it can be very easy. If you're not careful, you might go through a day where you've not moved at all. And you have to be very conscious about this, because there's some ramifications here if you're not careful. But if you go from a place where you're always active to now suddenly completely sedentary, that's going to cause weight gain. It's going to cause lethargy. Your energy is going to go lower, fatigue, all these sorts of things. So you need to be really careful in being conscious to stay active in this period. And there's obviously the rules around self-isolation. So you can only go out for once. If you go out once, you've got to maximize that time you do go out. So we've been telling people, instead of going for casual walks, don't run your steps. Obviously there's caveats in place, but the idea is you've got to maximize the time you are being active. And throughout the day, there's always things you can do. You can walk around the house, but outside of that, you can stay active with little circuits or small training sessions. There's more you can. It's funny, Manmeet was saying earlier about just how many people are actually worried about their health and not having access to a gym. I had no idea so many people were this stressed out about gym being closed down, because normally most people don't even worry about their gym memberships. And now all of a sudden, now that it's shut, they all want to go, right? And they all want to
It's that whole thing. Oh, we lost Rush there. I think it's the whole thing of like when you're told you can't do something, you want to do it more. It's it's actually called the universal law of heuristic escalation. The more you try and control, the more it's trying to, elude your control. So the more we're trying to be told to, either not go to the gym, it's like, okay, if you're allowed out once, everybody just wants to be out,
Yeah, well, I was saying to someone the other day, I was like, you're going out for a walk now and everyone's running. Everyone's people are doing workouts in the park, and if you go normally through a park, you don't see any of that. You just see.
No.
So I mean, there's positives out of all of it.
There's a lot of creativity happening now. People are creating ways on how are they able to do that? How are they able to work out in the like? You see, what we're doing now is optimizing what we have to get what it is we want. And I think that's where the creativity is really coming out. So.
Absolutely. And just to go back to the concept of NEAT, and for those of you who don't know, it means non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and it's just your day-to-day general activity. And for someone like Rushabh, who's gone from treating people, walking around the clinic, pretty much being on your feet, I'm assuming from the start to the end of the day, with small breaks where you're sitting down, to now just sitting behind a laptop all day long. And for a lot of people, that is the reality.
700 steps. I did a day where I just sat at home. I did 700 steps. Because I didn't actually. Then it got to 10 o'clock, and I was like, "Oh my god, I've got 9,000 steps to carry."
Well, this is the thing. Like anyone listening here, they should pay attention to their steps at the moment because they are going to be going. They're going to be lower than you think if you're not careful, and you want to make a conscious effort.
What's that? The one thing you say? The steps are the indicators for you. I don't know how you say it, but you say it something.
Yeah, so for me, whenever I reflect on periods where I've gone through either burnout or I've gone through periods where I've not taken care of myself, the first thing to go is always your step target. And it's a very common theme I'm noticing in especially high performance individuals who really strive for excellence. When their steps suddenly go down, start flagging, you notice that their performance in everything starts slowing down. And what typically happens is they're always telling me I'm redlining or I'm burning out or I'm just fatigued all the time. And when you think about it, it's just because they're just taking enough time for themselves to recharge. And steps can be a really good way. When I say steps, you're going for a walk or you're taking time out of your day to just walk and be active. That's what puts the fuel back in the tank. And that's a signal to your body that you're taking care of yourself. And when the steps are down, it's likely that your own health, physically and mentally, is in the tanker as well.
Yeah. What would you say when Manmeet? Some of my clients have come in and they've basically said, actually, we can't afford the online physio, although it's a reduced cost or whatever. And we understand that. It's a quite tricky time for money. I think you've done some really good work around money in the past. In this particular moment, what would you say to people? Regarding money.
I would love to cover that, but I think Savla's got some more things that you want to ask us. So let's just find out because he's like quiet there. So before I go on to that, did you want me to cover anything else or?
No. So you know what? You guys are flowing really nicely to all the questions I had. So it's really good. I'm keeping track of it. So it's really good. It's not a problem.
Apologies, Savla.
No, absolutely fine. I'm keeping an eye on all the comments that people are going through as well. So I'm making note of those and we're going to go through them. Manmeet, do you want to just cover that one quick thing about money? Because I know it's very important to a lot of people anyway as to where the money is going, where they're going to be utilizing it. It's very easy now for people to utilize it on different things which are maybe not in line with their priorities, but they sort of think, you know what, I've got it. I'm used to spending that money outside somewhere. How can they restructure their mindset to actually say, this is what it's needed for, here's how it's going to help me in the future?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the first question we got to ask ourselves is during this time, if you are now, cash poor, clearly you haven't had wealth creation in your highest priorities. And I think that has been a quite eye-opener for some people because they don't have the cash flow in their business or in their lives to carry on, living through the next few months. That's why people who are on Facebook, bitching about how long it's going to take for certain self-employed things to come. I mean, it's great. I'm seeing it like the only people I see the correlation. The only people who are bitching about it are the ones who haven't taken the steps to have wealth creation up higher. So it's a wake up call for some of them. But we're all going to spend our money according to our highest priorities. And I think right now there's two things I just want to cover here. One is that it's definitely a wake up call to go, okay, if I want, wealth creation higher in my priorities, it's wise to make the links. I'm not going to say you have to. I'm not going to say you need to, because there are some people who don't want to be wealthy, and that's fine. But if you do want to be wealthy, and today you're sitting in this position going, I don't know how I'm going to get through the next steps, couple of months or whatever, it's a wake up call just to say, is there something you want to change about that? Because the other thing is that now if you've lost money, it's just changed form. So like last week, I did a consult with a lady whose brother just lost 250,000, on the stocks. But she was really charged about it from, I can't see how that's going to serve him. And, but if we just take this one concept, I think even above law of duality, this is the most important universal law, and that is the law of transformation. Energy is never destroyed. It's only ever transformed. So if we really, really recognize that, people who are, as you said, not working from home, like we were just talking about the whole fitness thing, people are not missing the gym. They've just transformed their gym. They're doing it outside, or they're doing it at home, and they're making other kind of things. Like, I spoke to Rush the other day about like a shoulder thing that happened with me. And I was like, I don't have any weights. And literally he was like, the water bottle, So now my kind of dumbbell, what I would have done my exercise with, was just the water bottle, So it's about being very, very wise about asking anything you perceive to be missing. And if that is money, where is the equivalent of that transformed to in your life? And that's all we did with this client, is where did this individual's £250,000 worth transform into? And that goes into all different areas, but we can all put a value on something. Even if people say, it's priceless, it's like, no, what would you pay for that? Because the minute you see wherever things have transformed to, a lot of us are now, obviously got a lot more time. And this time is to, reset ourselves, take, going back to just coming back a step. If we look at what this virus, if I just kind of do a little bit on a mind-body connection with the virus, if we look at the symptoms of the virus, they are, flu-like symptoms, of course. So we take the cough, we take a temperature, just imagine you were experiencing those just on a daily basis. What would you typically do? You would go, okay, time to stay home, time to stay in bed, and take time out, So if we look at those symptoms and the psychosomatic reasons behind that as to why this virus, if it's affecting so many people globally, look at the feedback behind that and go, okay, well, if that's what it's doing on an individual level, it's getting everyone that's being affected by it and those who are not affected. So globally, we are, as Nevsah said earlier, is being forced to stop, reprioritize, and actually take a look at our life. And I think this whole thing around things being shut down, money-wise, economy, I'm thanking the universe for getting people to also stop and look at their finances, and go, well, is this a position that I actually really want to be in? And I think the one thing, that we do kind of cover around finances, I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to take too much time up now, is around, emotions around that. Because, Warren Buffett said, until you can't manage your emotions, don't expect to manage your money. So I think emotions play a whole part in money as well, because, the more, and this is like, even if you're trading on the stocks or if you're trading in normal or just whatever it is, the more emotionally volatile you are, that's where you're going to react from to the markets. I mean, this is the best time to be investing, because, obviously the emotion that people wait for these times, but if you're going to become emotional and go, oh, well, I'm in the market, but I now need to take out my money, and, you're going to lose. You're going to ride the wave if you're already in it. But also look at investments that you can go into that obviously, a great time to buy as well. But my advice would be, is the advice that, I got from my mentor, is have at least 6 months of cash reserve, so that you can prepare for times like this. and whatever that is, for you.
I think we call it the zombie apocalypse fund. And it's such an important thing to have.
One thing I was realizing is, by default, unless you're an online shopping obsessed with online shopping, you're probably spending a lot less now as well. But I'm also realizing just how little I need to live and then to be fine. Like there's very little you actually need when you're just stuck indoors.
Yeah. And the thing is, even people who do want to spend, they're not getting the deliveries for time.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're buying gym equipment, you won't get anything till May.
You won't get anything till May, June. Amazon Prime is now about 3 weeks out, Yeah.
Akash, are you in like 4 weeks of self-isolation and intermittent fasting? Is that how you're trying to save a bit of money on there? Not eat. Just going back to the point about loss in terms of money. Also, there's people in this time. It's very, very difficult for a lot of people. They're losing their jobs. Businesses are closing because there's no trade going through. People are really worried about that and really anxious, but they're also dealing with the loss of business, of employment, of money and income, and also loss of people, because there's obviously there's people dying like left, right, and center. To be morbid about it, what's your takes on that? How are people going to be able to deal with that? Because that's going to start affecting their mindset. It's going to start affecting their physiology. It's going to start affecting their physical health.
Yeah.
Are they on top of it?
It's about how adaptive you can be. How flexible are you with what's changing, and how flexible are you to respond to change? So most of us react to change rather than respond to change, and there's a difference. And a lot of like for example, take our business for example. We were physios. The classic come and see us. This is our address. And over a space of we started operating like it's a shutdown. I think 2 weeks before it was actually a shutdown. So that forced me to change everything and move everything online. And we'd been doing this online physio for such a long time, but we hadn't systemized it. We hadn't created a process or a framework behind it. And now all of a sudden, actually, we've shifted and it's opened so many more opportunities. For example, we're working with GPs who are based in Surrey. Like, I would never be able to do that if I was just sitting in North London in my clinic.
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity out there. It's about, are you willing to put the work in, one, and two, are you willing to accept that it is what it is at this perfect moment? And I call it whatever's happening to us as a business at this particular moment, it's there for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this the time we're in at the moment has happened because things need to change. People's mindset needs to change about what they're doing, how they're doing things, but also how we're coming together as humanity, not just community, but as humanity. How can we help each other? How can we change our thinking to be able to grow better and grow together? And actually, Rishika, this time right now, she just put a comment on saying the best time to volunteer for the NHS and to help the nation. Because people have got time and energy on their hands, and it's just, what are you going to do with it? Why not use it to help other people? Just on the topic of loss as well, I know there's going to be a number of parents who are going to be watching this video as well. So like myself, my little one, obviously the schools have closed, you're trying to work from home. But I want to look at it in the aspect of from the children's point of view, because there's going to be, like my little one, I know we had a conversation, he was working here with me in the office, he drew a picture, it's around somewhere, he drew a picture, and on the bottom he wrote, Rohan is missing school. And it's not something that he's verbalized, it's not something that he's discussed with us before, but it's actually something that's coming out. So I think it's very important for parents to talk to their children about what's happening and be completely open. Don't be scared of the fact that the answer might be, yes, I am missing school. Yes, I am missing my friends. But if you ask the question and you know what's happening, then the children know that they can talk to you about it, and then you can work through their emotions. And exactly like Manmeet's saying, it's the law of transformation.
Can I help in this moment and just give everybody who's watching the questions? so that they can help. So whether they're helping their children or whether they're helping themselves, please make a list of everything that you are missing right now. So it could be the things that you're missing doing. If it's your children that are at school, ask them specifically, what are you missing doing? And in your life, what are you missing doing? Are you missing like interacting with individuals or whatever it is? Write a whole list of what it is. And then the next question is, and this is, by the way, what I'm giving you is the DiMartini method for the loss process, which works on any perceived form of loss. And let me tell you something, why we ever perceive something to be lost, or we fear if I can speak, we fear the loss of things that we infatuate with, things that we admire. We'll only fear the loss of that. The things that we resent, like the coronavirus in our perception, we fear the gain of it. So as, Rush basically said that, people are fearing, the gain of certain things, and they don't want to, look at the other side, for example. But if we just take that fear of loss and the stress, right, that we're putting on our bodies, stress is the inability to want to change inability to change to an inability to adapt to a changing environment. Clearly it's my bedtime now. So if I give you this is that law of transformation, and this is what's going to allow you to be adaptable. Okay. And so when you take everything that you miss and you ask, what new form has now emerged since I perceived it to be lost? Because there were people that were working from home before the lockdown happened, the so-called lockdown, okay? And there were people who only were still going into work, and only last week, I've heard, have literally just come back since the lockdown happened too. So you've got to go to the moment you perceived it was lost. Where did it transform to? What was the form? It can be form of one and many, male or female, close or distant, and some of it could be self and other. So you could be taking on some of the things. Then you would ask, what are the drawbacks? What were the drawbacks of the old form? So if you had your son, right, and you said, Rohan, when you were at school, and let's say it was painting or whatever, when you did painting at school, what were the disadvantages and the drawback? What did you not like about it? Because the only reason they're missing that is because they think it's great and it's amazing, and they're just seeing one side. So the moment they start to write enough benefits, you don't want to go too fast so they resent it. You just want to go, can you see that doing the drawing at school had both benefits and drawbacks? The moment they say yes with certainty, you move on to go, what are the benefits of the new form? Because this is the key thing that causes depression, anxiety, and everything, is that people start seeing the life that they wish they had on a fantasy, on a pedestal. So they're saying, I'm missing this. And then what's happening in their life is down in a pit. The moment you ask those 4 questions, what am I missing? Where is the form now? What's the drawback of the old form? And what's the benefit of the new form? You will be grateful for and see the transition of what you perceive to be lost has only changed form. Because, and I'll leave you with this quote, masses live in a world of gain and loss. Masters live in a world of transformation. The more you're able to see that, the more you're going to adapt to the change.
It's fire right there.
Powerful.
I like that one.
Okay, listen, guys. I've gone through everything that I need to go through. You guys have flowed through it really, really nicely. We've had loads of people joining us on Facebook on the live. Loads of really nice comments coming through, saying thanks for the advice. It's been super helpful. And this is obviously why we set this up, to be able to help people, to support people, to be there. There's a number of different questions which I haven't been able to ask from the viewers, but I am wary of your time. I'm wary of the viewers' time, because people need to, people need to stay at home. I don't know, something like that. I just want to say that if you've got anything else, please do put in the comments on the Facebook Live. And if for the viewers, if you have any other questions, do put it in the comments below. We're going to leave it up, and then we'll try and answer those questions and those comments as quickly as we can. But thank you so much from myself, from Manmeet, from Rushabh, from Akash, from Nevsah. It's been absolutely fantastic for us to be able to share information with you, and we really appreciate it. We're so grateful that you have been here watching us on this. Is there anything you guys want to add?
Interviewing us, Sarvan. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Salvan. It's been great. I really appreciate all of you spending your Saturday hour with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Akash. Thanks.
Right,
Thanks,
okay.
everyone.
God bless everyone. Stay safe, and we're going to make a move. Look after yourselves, look after your family, and look after the world. Cool. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for being here today on this episode of RNT Fitness Radio. I'd love for you to do a quick little favor for us. Please head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment, and share it with your family and friends. If you're interested in learning more about how to transform your body and positively change your life, go to www.rntfitness.com and explore all our free content on offer. Thank you.